Okay, welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, that's non-classics. This is episode number 1611 and Doubleshot number 1505. Let me just one second here. Sorry about that. I had to go get something first. Oh, there's only one reason why I had to go get that book, because I forgot to put it over here. Because I just reviewed it just last episode. Yep. Now, what trade is it I'm going to review? Well, first up, it's going to be Champions Volume 2, Give and Take. Collecting the last 4 issues of Champions Volume 3. Of course, still about Jim's. I forgot to mention the artist who worked on these issues, which this guy did pretty much draw almost his entire run. Stephen Cummings. By the way, in the previous trade, I forgot to mention this. Stephen Cummings did the opening 4 issues of this one, and about 2 of them. So he pretty much did all but 2 issues. Yes, exception of 5 and 6, he did pretty much. That's Juan Ramirez. Now this book continues with, like, the first thing it does, it continues with a plot thread from the previous trade, where you have Sam Alexander Nova with this girl named, I think it was Renette, I think her name is, where they go into space to go get his helmet, which was taken from him back in the previous volume, kind of during the events of Infinity Countdown. So they break into the main Nova space station. Well, they're basically their base operations to get back to him, because they think it is. But they later find out, thanks to receiving some security footage, that it was actually stolen from them by a member of the Thieves Guild back in issue 8 of the most recent of the current volume, Missing Spider-Man. I'm like, that's interesting. Something happened in this book like 1 year prior to this. I'm like, wow, that is something. One thing at least I appreciate with Jim Zeb's run for Champions, at least he throws in editorial notes. We also have references to Infinity Countdown, I think it's Infinity Wars Infinity, and Wolverine the Infinity Guard over basically looking for a particular gem. Actually, that's actually another book, but... So, he does get back to Earth and gets a brand new attire as Nova. Well, basically, he later teams up with Snowbird to get back his helmet, which he's able to do. And he gets a slight updated costume. Yeah, it's pretty much the same helmet per se, but he's more in control of his powers. So he basically wants a rematch from Nova number 9 from 2013. So basically, this is the 9th issue of Volume 5. So basically, when this came out, this is the first time this woman that appeared in 6 years, at least 5 years. Actually 6 years. So they fight, and Nova beats her, and she's held off Nova Corps. Scott Adamson comes back, and he tells them, okay, you're going to take this prisoner, but you're not taking my helmet again, and I'll fight you for it. And Scott's like, okay, fine, you can keep the helmet for now. Well, that threat was never followed up with because the book got canceled, and Scott Adamson hasn't appeared since then. So, now to deal with that, we also have another plot. That plot thread is immediately wrapped up within just a couple issues. For the last couple issues, we deal with another threat that comes completely out of nowhere. We have it where Riri is acting a bit unusual since she wants to talk to Viv. And then she knocks her out. Apparently, Viv has taken over command of the Champions due to Miss Marvel's take leave of absence due to personal reasons. Because what happened in the previous trade. So, yeah, it turns out Riri and a bunch of champions get possessed by a demon. Who, you might ask? Blackheart. Yes, which they do reference in here, despite the fact the last time these two fought was hit during the Bendis run of Miles Morales' Spider-Man book in the first 2 issues. Yes, so Blackheart's like, I have been waiting for this as our last encounter. And so I was like, I beat you once, scary face, I'll beat you again. And they have a big brawl with the champions, and they win. And then he's basically sent back to hell by his father, Mephisto. Excuse me. Also, Braun has been absent for several issues for a good reason. Now you might be thinking, where the heck has Braun been in these issues? Well, Amadeus Cho has been off for the Age of Atlas stuff, because he briefly left the book for that. He comes back in the last issue to deal with Blackheart, and then everybody's all hunky-dory, the team's like, we're about to do a chapter, and that's where the series ends. I'm not kidding about that. That's how the series ends. Everybody back together, big full roster. You might think, oh yeah, we're going to have more adventures. Nope, book got canceled at issue 10. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, here's a little fun fact for you. When the first issue of this volume came out, it was done as dedication to the late Stan Lee, who had just passed away. So, final thoughts on this volume. Let's just like this. Final thoughts on this volume of Champions, Volume 3 by Jim Zeb. And pretty much the final thoughts of his run as a whole. Now, this volume I thought was really good. I still... Oh, yeah, by the way, this trade also collected the very first issue of Noah Volume 6. Yes, seriously. They threw that in there for some reason. Is this book implying the fact that the two volumes of Champions take place between volumes 5 and 6 of Nova? It's possible. And the Champions have been around sporadically since then. And the book was brought back last year as part of that stupid Outlawed stuff. Ugh. Everybody hates the Outlawed stuff. I did not like the storyline at all. Probably by far the most unpopular storyline of last year. And, like, it was written by Eve Ewing, who was actually the same person who wrote the Iron Heart series, which, okay, that's interesting. So we got a woman who's actually written the book before. Like, okay, not the Champions before, but Riri. Okay, fine. And the roster got bigger, and what happened in Outlawed affected the book. And initially, this was announced as a limited series. That was later expanded to 5 more issues. And then the book got canceled again in issue 10 once the second arc wrapped up, which was Killer App. And that's been it for the Champions. No, I'm not kidding about that. That has seriously been it. Like, I have to ask. So, you brought back the Champions after being gone for what? A year? Yes. The book was only gone for like a freaking year. Yeah, it was only brought back like 1 year after the previous one got canceled. Yes, it was just barely a year. Like, you bring this book back after a year, and then you cancel it. And I'm like, really? It was brought back late last year, believe it or not. Yes, they actually ended the book just recently. Yes, the last issue just came out a month ago. No, seriously, it was like 1 month ago. And let me look at this here. Like, here you go. Final issue of this volume was released October 2019. The first issue of the previous volume started 1 year later. Yes, I think that what happened with this book is supposed to be released at the start of 2020, excuse me. But it was late because of the pandemic, which nobody likes pandemic at all. People think it's stupid. That's something else altogether. You bring the book back, and then not even a year later, the book gets canceled. So, you bring back a popular group. Now, this group, as far as I can tell, is super popular. People, from what I heard, the reception about this particular series was initially first launched in 2016. It got really positive reception. I owned the first 3 trades to collect. Issues from the previous one for the series that were part of the Mark Gray Barton Ramos run. Excuse me. Now, did I have a problem with the fact change writers? No. Didn't have a problem with it. But at least this book did something that oh, I don't know, that Marvel basically doesn't like that they love doing, but this book didn't do it. You know what they didn't do? They did not hit the restart button. Yes, which makes this book the first book since Thunderbolts to not have a restart button happen just because we have a brand new writer come onto the book. And I'm like, oh wow, they actually can do that. But then the book got relaunched anyways with this same writer. Like, get this. Like, it had been like exactly like what would have been his 10th issue of Jim Zebb's run, which would have been issue 28, but no, we had to hit that restart button because the book wasn't selling too well. So basically, Marvel's response, restart it. Yes, by far a outdated concept. Marvel has been doing this on a constant basis for the past 9 years. And in my opinion, this needs to stop. Seriously. We need to have, like, I would say probably the only year we didn't have, like, a restarts was last year. Like, it wasn't, like, a lot of books. I think, like, roughly, like, 1 or 2 books ever launched last year. But last year we had a lot of cancellation because of the pandemic. This year probably had a lot of cancellation. Oh, don't worry. We'll be talking about cancellation of books in my things wrong with this year. Oh, don't worry about that. There'll be a lot of ranting when it comes to that. But in the case of this Flying for Champions, it definitely was good. I think Jim Zebb did a great job. In my opinion, Marvel should not cancel this book. That should get the book going. Because this book was great. Heck, one thing that was really neat about this particular run is that this group was given a base of operations, an actual like vehicle they can call their own that was also their home base, the Champions Mobile. Yes, I love this whole thing. It was really awesome. Now you might be asking, okay, why would I call this Volume 3, even though some people might think it's Volume 2? There's a reason for that. Because back in the 1970s, there was another Champions book released. A book that nobody talks about. It was book signed by Jerry Conway, and the group was comprised of Black Widow, Hercules, yes, Hercules, the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, Angel, Iceman, and later joined by frickin' Darkstar, who was a brand new character. 6 people in just the entire 17-issue run that had occasional guest appearances, which, by the way, Marvel did collect this book in Champions Classic. They collected all their appearances but one in these particular 2 books. The only appearance they did not collect was Godzilla number 3, because they don't own the rights to the issue, but they did collect it in the Essential Godzilla Volume 1. But moving on from the Champions, we have a different book. We have Infinite Destinies. Here's a fun fact about this particular storyline. Yes, this was released just this year. But did you know this book was these annuals were released last year? Yeah, Marvel canceled this at first, and then they released these books anyways. Excuse me. Okay, these are a series of annuals that came out just this year. All but one are first annuals for this particular series. You have annual for Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Cat, Avengers, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Amazing Spider-Man number 2. Well, kind of call this Volume 2, number 2. I'm trying to think here. Let's see. I think overall, Amazing Spider-Man, this was his 42nd annual. Let me look it up for these other ones. Because I think that this annual, this was overall for the annuals for Iron Man. This was the 23rd annual. Okay. Now, as for Captain America, For him, this was the 19th annual. Yep, Black Cat, this was her first. Amazing Spider-Man. This was for him, his... it doesn't say in here, but I think it was... this was for Spider-Man, actually, the 45th annual. Yes, the 45th annual for Spider-Man. For Thor. For him, let's see, how many annuals for Thor? I think about 20... I think overall about 25 annuals. This was actually for Thor, his 25th annual. Avengers, I'm not really sure yet. I think for Miles, this was actually his first or second. Now, there is a backup feature in these actual books called Infinite Fury. That whole feature is done by Deb McKay. It has really good artwork in that stuff. Which they don't list on here for some reason in the credit stuff. Now, these annuals, at least 3 of them were written by Jed McKay, who was the writer of Black Cat and currently also the writer of Moon Knight. He wrote the annuals for Iron Man, Black Cat, obviously, and Avengers. The only annual I've technically talked about before is Amazing Spider-Man, which I believe this was the first appearance of Star since the King of Black Thunderbolts miniseries. The Captain America annual that's done by Gary Duggan. Now, all these annuals, the only one actually done by the regular writer of the book is the Miles Morales one, which makes sense. And, oh yeah, Guardians, yes, that was also done by the writer at that point, which was Al Ewing. Currently, the book is no longer published for some stupid reason. Aaron Kidder is the writer and artist for Thor. And, well, now as for what happens to these annuals, basically here's what happens. In the Iron Man annual, you have Iron Man taking on the Aggressor. Which, that's interesting. Yes, this is a character that popped up for issues of the current run for the Miles Morales Spider-Man book. When they kidnapped him, tortured him, and this annual is simply put a follow-up to that, where you have Iron Man taking him on and beating the damn people. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Nothing much follow up with this thing. I thought this was a really neat idea for Jed McKay to do this first. I thought it was really good. The Captain America one, it's just him dealing with some weird stuff. It's a team story with him and the Black Widow, and it's a pretty interesting story. The Black Cat one is really cool. It's her team up with the character White Fox, who is a Korean superhero. Yep. And, well, that's what the story is. A team story between the two of them. It's a really fun story. I loved it. The Amazing Spider-Man one is just Spider-Man working with Star. But this was a really fun annual. It's weird, though, the fact that, despite the fact Kelly Thompson did create Star, she didn't write this. Nope. This book was actually written by Carla Pacino. Which, that was interesting. You have Thor annual. We have Thor taking on what looks like a zombie version of, I think this is supposed to be like the Spirit of Corruption, I believe this is. This is Thor Bonkin. He is a original character who actually showed up here. Yeah, and apparently they have Hawkeye become the representative for the League of Realms. Which you're thinking, really? Hawkeye is the member of this group? Yes, seriously. Oh my gosh. It is so hilarious. The fact that Hawkeye is part of this group. Yes, frickin' Hawkeye. Yeah, which is so hilarious. But just Thor fighting some evil version of himself. But this was a pretty fun annual. And it's a good tie into Don DeCosta's run for Thor, because that's the alpha show up in this run. Yeah, this feels like an actual annual fight for Thor. And plus, love the homage to Jack Kirby's classic art style. Yep. Pretty fun annual this one is. The Guardians of the Galaxy one, nothing to do with the Guardians. It's basically Hercules versus, I believe this is supposed to be a younger version himself. Now, you're probably thinking, why the heck does Hercules have this weird beard? Well, because this is actually the, well, I think this is the one from the, no, this is not one from the Guardians, but this is the Yao Ewing character. Yeah, it's basically a guy by the name of Throne. Yes, and the Guardian himself don't appear in this annual, which you're thinking, that's interesting. Why the heck would they not appear in their own annual? Honestly, don't know. I think overall for Guardians, I'm trying to think of 4, 5. I think this was like the 7th annual. Most of it just Al Ewing explain the backstory of like a character he created. But it is definitely an annual. Why the heck they call it Guardians of the Galaxy instead of called Hercules? I have no idea. Probably because it's, well, Hercules is in Guardians. The Miles Morales one is something that's actually by, well, of course, well, Saad Ahmed. I don't think this is collected in the regular trades. It's mostly Miles fighting fighting this other guy. Let's see. What is this guy's name here? This is Amulet. I believe he's actually from the Camilla Khan book. Yeah, he's actually a character that someone created who appeared in this annual and a few issues of the Magnificent Miss Marvel book and like one issue of Champions. So, with the exception of the one Champions book, I've covered like almost this guy's entire run at Marvel. He's only around for a couple of years. Yep. Really interesting annual. I think they did a good job with this book. Yep. The Avengers one is mostly just a story with them working with this one kid. And it's an okay annual. It's interesting, though, that Avengers has an annual. Now, so Infinite Fury, this is whole entire Nick Fury Jr. stuff, where it's mostly him fighting a bunch of creatures. Now, there's a bunch of artists in these issues. The first part, they kept changing the artists a lot of the time. It's mostly Juan Ferreira, and these are really quick, like a few-page stories. But I'm glad the fact this trade actually collected the entire thing, and I like the fact they did this, where also they have a guest appearance by Nighthawk. And you're thinking, Nighthawk? Which one is that? That's Jason Aaron's Nighthawk. Yeah, he was part of that makeshift Squadron Supreme of America. This book, I actually thought was pretty good. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. It's got good artwork. I appreciate, though, Jed McKay. Clearly, the way he wrote this, he clearly was reading the current volume of Iron Man because he knows how that book is awesome. So he must have basically just read like, I'll write Iron Man like the current writer does it. So he writes Iron Man like a freaking badass and take out like a villain really easily. But it's a really fun annual. The Captain America was pretty interesting for what it is. It's interesting, though, they couldn't bring in Jed McKay to do all these annuals, but because he was busy doing Black Cat. At least he wrote the Black Cat annual. Yes. Avengers annual, I'm not really sure why Jason Aaron could take time to do it. I mean, aside from working on Avengers, I don't think he's working anything. Yeah, as far as I can tell, I don't think he's working on anything else aside from Avengers. Not currently, no. Yeah, aside from this book, I don't think he's working on anything. And this is like as of currently, as of this year. Yes, aside from Avengers, I'm trying to remember what else he's writing now. He was writing Thor. I don't think he's writing anything else right now. Oh yeah, he's writing King Conan. Yep. He's going to write King Conan. He did write Mighty Valkyries recently. And he's going to be writing the new volume Avengers Forever, which is should be interesting. Yeah. Avengers and Multiverse. Like, okay, this should be interesting. I mean, after all, that's a really cool idea. Him writing Conan again, that's interesting. Because he did write, he was a original writer for Conan the Barbarian before he got replaced by Jim Zeb and the book got canceled issue 25. At least the book managed to reach 300 issues before it ended. Yep. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. And that's probably a good video today. I do have a couple more trades I could do, but I'll worry about those tomorrow. Yep. But see you in the next video. Bye.